at the graph like this, or do you want to still look at it anyways? Like, when you look at graphs, like, I guess I should say, like, what's the best to look at for as in, if you're going to do a bull or bear trade, what's the best to look at, I guess, my question.
All right. So, all right, Michael, so take this the right way, okay? If we were together right now, I'd smack you. Because you need to be a computer. Okay?
Right.
You need, what you just asked me sounds like speculation all the way. Okay?
Right.
Okay? If I understood you correctly, it just sounds like, you're looking at it and just the way you phrase that question, it sounds like speculation. What the whole idea, what I'm trying to teach anybody, especially you, obviously, is to eliminate speculation. So, if you were to go by the rules that we talked about, okay, the PM 200, you don't have to worry about all the stuff you just asked, because it would just simply go, does it fit our rules? Yes or no. Move on, or take it, or take the trade. So, looking at the graph the way it is, exactly how it is, and let's just pretend that this is today, because it's the very, 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 very last bar on the far right. Answer your own question for me. Would you take this trade?
Probably not.
Okay, there's no probably. It's simply no, you would not. Period. Move on to the next chart, and don't look at this chart again. That's how fast.
Right.
That's how fast you have to go. Be black and white. A computer is black and white. If you tell yourself open up Excel, it opens up Excel. It doesn't open up Word. I mean, it sounds kind of weird what I just said, but think like a computer. Because the second you start going, should I do it? Well, probably not. I listen to the words you're saying, and to me, you don't sound sure. You know what I mean? And I'm just telling you this because you have to become that way, black and white. Would you take it? No. There's a ton of other stocks that are prime and ready to go today that perfectly fit what we're doing. So, with me, saying no, you would not take this trade, and as fast as possible, I need you to get the same way, is black and white. Would you make that trade? So, based on me saying, looking at that trade, answering your question in about 3 seconds, looking at it and going, nope,
Right.
I want you to be that way, okay? And the more and more you get used to seeing graphs, you'll see that, and it won't be any doubt in your mind that this would be too high of a probability of you losing on this trade. And primarily because all the research I've done and everything I'm teaching you, this wouldn't fit our criteria. And one way I immediately know that is because we already drew, or you drew, that line indicating, and I want you to kind of fill in the gaps now when I'm talking, and pause. You drew the graph, the white line, the diagonal line, and the vertical line, and you drew those because what?
Because it hit 200% the first time.
Say that again?
It hit 200%.
Right.
It moved 200% for the first time.
Right. And I really, it was important that you said it hit 200% for the first time. Underline for the first time. Remember I was saying, if you find a stock like that, it hits for the first time, that's what you're looking for. It hit for the first time. That in itself tells you it already hit, move on. You know what? You understand? Move. Just it already hit. The trade already's been taken. The opportunity already existed. It already existed right over here on August 5th, 2016. So why am I spending any more time on it? That's how within 3 seconds I go next. Okay. By doing what I just explained, you can avoid losses. Can get you into trouble. All right. And I just look at, if I were to use your thinking and come over here and go, well, this might be a good trade. It probably is a good trade. It's really exploding up. Remember this thing, okay? If you're in doubt and this is going, yeah, but look at it's going up, it's primed to come back down. That's speculation. Listen to your own self and your language. So what I'll do to avoid that, I just get rid of all the price graph. All I have now to go on is bars. Okay? That's it. Now, based on these bars, I already explained the answer. You know, it hit its first PM 200. It had its reversal. You got in. It met your target as a short. Move on. Okay? It's that quick. So, I think I drilled that answer into your head. And I'm glad you said that, because you really got to condition your brain how to think. Remember, I was telling you that, I don't know what happened to the mouse here. It's stuck on this little weird arrow thing here. I'm going to go back to when we very first started talking about entering the stock world, that 80% of doing well is 80% of your emotional control. You know, and part of emotional control versus discipline is, you know, back to my point I wanted to drive home, is discipline and versus going on feeling or emotion. So don't fall into that at any time. Don't fall into guessing, okay? And the way you described it sounded like you were guessing. I just hope I drove my point home. Don't look at the, I don't know what you were looking at that made you say that by looking at that graph. I don't know if you're looking at the blue bars. I don't know if you're looking at the price. I have no idea. I don't know. Okay, so I just slapped your hand, okay? Yeah, exactly. Okay, any other questions before we get started on the training part? Okay, alright, so I'm going to switch sides here. Alright. Don't need that. So I'm going to bring up an example here, NAK. And the example that we're going to use, now what I mean, what our whole lesson is going to be right now is I'm going to pick a stock, pick an entry, we're going to enter it on the calculator, and we're going to go through the whole calculator, not just the top part. There's 3 sections to the calculator. We're going to go through those sections. So I'm going to draw some things here. This is where we're going to enter the trade on this day. Try to get this up here. Kind of stretching it out. Looking at this, Okay. You know what I'm doing, of course. I'm getting a feel for drawing our horizontal line. Looks like this is going to be it over here. So I'm going to quickly go through this, because the lesson isn't in drawing lines. It's just going to be the calculator, but I want to get this pretty accurate. so you follow along with me here. So 0.32 is the peak I see for the MACD, 0.32. Okay, now it's exact. This red line is now exactly matched up with that peak. So I'm waiting for this stock to become eligible. So on the MACD, it's eligible here because it exceeded 0.32. It's at 0.35. We don't take the trade because it hasn't broken the red line on the TSV. So we keep going. It still hasn't broken it here. By the way, TSV is at 51,800. That's at 49,500. So in other words, this line where I drew this right here is our first opportunity to get in. It broke the red line. It broke the red line on the blue bars. That's going to be our entry. Okay, so we're at $2.46 is where it closed that day. Okay, so we're going to go and enter that. 246, it's a short. Here we go. 246. For $3,000 investment, we're going to short 1,220 shares. So we're going to zero these out. We don't need these anymore. And a little bit of, like I'm going to repeat certain things just to reiterate stuff. We would only use these if we were dollar cost averaging. But since we're not, I'm going to zero these out on both sides. And zero out means put a zero. That doesn't mean hit backspace and delete. You have to have a number in there, or your profit point won't calculate correctly. It just won't work. Okay, so 246 is where we would be if we entered the trade on this day. Okay, so we're going to calculate out our 1.5% target. So we're going to enter in 246 because, and I underline this, that's where the trade closed on the day we entered. Very important, that's where the trade closed. You don't want to enter in where your trade actually was executed on your trading platform. And there's like a 99% chance that you're not going to get $2.46 when you make a trade at market. You may get $2.48, but more than likely, there's about 100% chance you'll probably get $2.45, $2.44. In other words, whenever you short at market, you'll always get a price that is not always, but you'll get a price that's below usually where the trade ends for the day. So it ended at 246, you'd get something below that. Okay, so our target is $2.42 with a 1.5% target. What I'm looking at is over here, 242. Okay, dang it. Alright, so $2.42. So if we go to $2.42, we're actually at a 1.59% profit, and we'd make about 48 bucks, $47.78. Okay, so what happened is literally this was an outstanding entry because boom, it fell. It actually gave us 18%. It moved 18%. It fell down to a low of $2.01. That was the low on that day. So it blew past our 1.5%. All right, so what ended up happening, this is what I'm putting, is where we entered in 2.46, and then it fell, and it fell to 18%. So like I said, it blew away our target of 1.5% because it fell all the way down, and it continued falling. It went 30%. But we don't care about that because our target would have executed at 1.5. So obviously right here, I'll make it very dramatic for you here. Very, very, very obvious. I'll go over here and I'll mark what the trade actually did. And that's it moved 18%. So we come down here and we made our target, 2.42. This is where we continue on, and let's just say the commission was $2. And let's just say that what was our entry date? December 27th, 2016. December 27th, 2016. And our commission was $2. Our fill price was $2.46, 1,220 shares. Now, this is the important part here. This section, the upper section, is the live trade section. That's when where the trade is still going on. So in our demo right now, our trade just ended because it hit our target. So what we're going to do is transition this information to the closed section, or I should say when a trade's done and executed and it's closed, we transition it down to the closed trade section, which is in these brackets. Okay? That's what we're doing next. That's what we're doing next. The easiest way to do that is to copy and paste. I didn't say cut and paste, copy and paste. So we'll grab the information in yellow, which is here. This is our trade. And I'm just going to hit Control C for copy. Come down here, Control V as in Victor, and it copied our trade. Okay? Now, the reason why this says value, because remember, this is still a calculation here. So I'm going to enter in negative 1220. Notice I said negative, negative, negative. This is things where you start to, I want you to start to write things down, because if you don't do things with the right, with the right number, like negative or positive, it's going to mess things up. So what I did is I entered in, remember, this, if you look, was a calculation. Okay? That was the calculation to calculate how many shares to trade. Once I'm in a trade, I will put the actual number that it's showing, negative 1220. I literally am writing negative 1220. Enter. Okay? The reason I do that is because when you come over and you copy this, and I'm going to do the same thing again, copy and paste. Notice this time it correctly put in the number of shares, 1,220. Since it was a bear trade, I'm going to say it again, I put in negative 1220. Or actually it copied the correct number down here. So if you have any questions, tell me right now what I was explaining. If you have any questions. The whole idea was copy and paste and literally write in the number that the calculation did, which was negative 1220. You got to do that so that you don't get that weird value error thing over here. Okay, so moving on is, notice it copied the commission. Entry date, exit COMM is exit commission. So what I'm going to do, since we're transitioning everything from the live trade to the closed trade, and in the big picture, the reason we're doing that is because we want to get our final stats in the right sections. And there's 3 sections that are most important that I use on this calculator. Right now we're entering stuff into section 2, which is entering in, once again, once a trade is done and over, we enter it in this section here where it's closed. So $2.42. We're going to move on. $2.42 is where our target was, which is the same thing as our exit price. Okay, exit price. So enter in 242. Also, let's assume now when you go into a trade, you pay a commission to get in the trade and you pay a commission to get out of the trade. Okay, so let's pretend that the commission to get out of the trade was also $2, and they should be pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. The commissions are based off of how many shares you trade. Okay, so what I'm doing here, since we want to account for all of our numbers to get a true estimate of what our profit and loss is and how much money we actually made. So $2, technically this $2 that is highlighted here, right? Okay, right there, that was, even though this is exit commission, just keep this in mind. I want to get all our numbers down here. That was actually our entry commission. Since we initiate our trade here, this is what it costs us to enter. So I'm going to enter in 0 so we don't count it twice. Now that $2 commission is actually here, and this is going to be, I'm going to put a note so you know exactly. This is our exit commission. Very important. This number, sometimes I over explain things, but I'd rather do that than have you not know. This is our entry commission. Okay, I'm telling you how to properly enter that stuff. Okay, so that's done and that's done. We entered in our exit price. $48 was our profit. We actually made 1.63%. And this number here doesn't count commission. That's how come it went up a little bit. Our cost basis was $3,000, and then our exit. When did we exit the trade? On this day, which was December 30th, 2016. And before I mess things up here, hold on a minute. I'm going to save this. So I entered in our date we exited the trade, 12/30, and then this is just for statistics wise. That's not critical. It moved four pennies to make our target. All right. So at this point, we're completely done with this trade, and I would, of course, save the file as being closed. That's one other thing I like to do, is go back and rename the file name for this trade and just put closed, and I put the name of the date it was closed. So we're done. The only thing here, there's nothing to enter now. Notice over here, this is our third section. Boxes 1 through 4 are the closed trades section. There's nothing to enter in this third section, section 3. Nothing to enter. All it does is it takes numbers from section 2. This section is section 2. It takes numbers from this area, and it there's its calculations down here. So our gross P&L is $48.80. Our commissions, total commissions we paid, is $4, and then our net is basically, it is gross P&L minus commissions was $44.80. We spent $3,000 to make the trade. Our net P&L was 1.49. Okay, meaning with taking into account commissions, and this is our gross trade P&L, and that's without commissions. And of course the percentage should be higher because it doesn't count commissions. This is our final data here, and then this is additional data, live trade summary for the bull bear section here if you needed that. Box 3, bull bear trade summary, live and closed trades. But what matters most is that box 1 See the closed bull bear trade summary, all trades. After all live trades have closed and entered in box 1, reference box 3 for final trade stats. If all live trades, the upper section, have transitioned to the lower blue bordered closed section, there should be no shares left in the upper live section. I'm not going to get into that explanation right now. It's a little bit detailed here. What I want to drive home right now is that when everything here is done in the closed trade section, this is your final statistics, is what I'm trying to drive home. This is the final stats. Okay, now there's another section here which you don't have to mess with at all, but it explains what you're doing in this section here, and this has to do with shares. A long time ago I did trades that were really kind of complicated, and I did a lot of trading where I would trade a bull trade, and at the same time I would enter in a bear trade, and it was specific reasons why I did that. But when I entered in and I owned long shares and short shares in the same trade, it would be a little complex as far as like how many shares do I actually have, and I use this as checks and balances. So I would enter in a date here, and let's just say I had I don't know, 40 shares in the bull section, and then on another day I came in. Notice when I did that, this box turned green because my total shares is I was long 40 shares, so it meant I was long. And this keeps stats of what's current. And say on another day I came and I shorted 60 shares. Our total is now negative 20 shares. And there's this thing called biasing a trade, which is another thing when it's pretty kind of advanced strategies that I was testing to see if they worked. But I needed to know what my overall trade bias was, and if I was long 40 and short 60, my net would be negative 20 shares. So I was bull biased. This is all red. It's called bull biased. I mean bear biased. And then I would continue on. If I were continuing to make more trades, I would just on this, I'd put the date, and I would enter in. This say I shorted another 20 shares. Okay. Now I'm biased 40 shares, negative 40 shares. And there's a whole strategy behind trading like that, getting in, buying bull shares or bear shares, and so. But like I said, this is something you probably won't need to do unless you wanted to learn some advanced strategies. So that's the whole thing. That's what I wanted to drive home right now, is these sections here. The top section, live section, is here. We talked about, of course, using this information here to calculate your targets. Enter in your investment price here. Do not mess with this at all. We talked about that as well. You don't need to mess with that. This is what you primarily want to do, is to enter in. If you had $500 or $100 to trade with, enter it here to get your appropriate shares calculated over here. That's when you're entering a trade. And then we just reviewed the middle section, the closed trade section, and then section 3 to look at your statistics. Okay, so I think we're done with the calculator for what we're doing right now for our particular methods that were covered. This is all you're going to need to know. We don't have to mess with. You don't have to mess with any of this section over here. This is for all advanced trading. And then this is also the same thing. This is for advanced trading here. You can get really fancy with this area over here. It does a lot of kind of neat calculations. If you were here and you wanted to calculate how many shares and how much it would cost you to, say, bring your average price up or down, and the average price, remember, is your profit point. If you wanted to literally control it, because see, our profit point was literally here at our entry. We didn't dollar cost average at all, so our profit point was at $2.46. Technically, it was at $2.50, counting commissions. Okay, so it was at $2.50. So if we wanted to literally control this here, this section here, you can enter in a specific prices and stuff to raise and lower our average price. Like I said, this is kind of advanced stuff. I don't want to go too far into this. I just want to kind of explain. The whole point is the calculator and how to use the 3 sections. Okay. So what I want you to do right now for me is you take over control, and based off of this information, our entry right here, our entry right here, this will be an overall good review of what we're doing. And what I want you to do is, based off this information, enter in our calculator. Enter in our first 2 sections, assuming that we're moving forward, okay? So,
okay, and how much are we investing?
However much you want to invest. I'll leave it up to you.
Okay, we'll just leave it at 3,000, I guess.
Okay?
Okay, so the
Sounds
first
good.
thing I would do is I would come over
Fantastic.
here and zero all this stuff out.
I want you to do this, and even though we're going through training, kind of pretend I'm not here, and just do what you would do, what I just explained. If you get into a jam, then ask away, okay?
So how do I get back to that bar graph of yours?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You just tell me that part. I'll do it.
Okay, yeah. So 117.17. Okay, so I'll come back to the graph, and I would enter my entry at 425 because we are going too short. My desired is 1.5%. So I would look at that target at 4.19, so that would be my live price, 4.19. Then I would come over here to the activity date, so I entered the trade at 117, or you do the slash.
Yeah.
117.17. Commission, say $2 because it's 3,000. I'm doing 3,000. Fill price will be 425. So the quantity is going to be negative 700. And then zero this out. Zero this out. So my desired target is 4.19. And I'll go back to the graph. And we enter the trade at 117. 4.19, and it easily hit. It was a negative 4%. Easily hit our target. It closed at 375. I'd go back to the graph. And I would scroll down. Entry date would be, so I would just going to be $4 because it's going to cost us to exit the trade as well.
Okay, I'm going to pause you. I'm going to pause you here. Don't do that. Don't do that, because I gave you like perfect conditions. I put $2 and $2 or whatever I said earlier. Okay. What you want to do, and to eliminate human error, I see you're putting these things in manually. Okay. Don't do that. The more you put in manually, the more you're increasing the odds of making a mistake. So that's why I click on this cell up here, activity date.
Oh, my connection's lost again. So, TeamViewer disconnected.
Okay, let me pause. So, I was talking about human error, eliminating human error. That's why I always put my mouse over activity date, and then I hold my left mouse down. I know you know how to copy and paste. I'm just showing you what I'll do. I'll highlight everything in yellow. That first row, since we've only done one trade, no dollar cost average was needed. Copy it, and then come down to entry date down here, and then paste. Okay. So we'll back up, and I want you to do it now.
Okay, so I'm going to go over here to activity.
Looks good.
And then I'm going to go.
Looks good.
I have to drag it all the way?
No, just paste.
No?
Just paste.
Okay.
You lost it. You got to do it again.
It won't let me paste.
So listen.
Okay,
Hit listen. So hold on. Something's really screwed up. You know, do you see that?
Yeah, cost basis.
Well, look it. I don't know if it's I don't know. When you were holding down the mouse, what it did was copy the activity date everywhere. The date is in the commission, the date's in the fill price, the date's in the quantity.
Oh, what the?
Listen, on your keyboard, when that happens, just hit Control Z, and it'll undo. Okay, it's all back now.
Okay.
Remember that shortcut, Control Z. It's undo whatever happened. Now it looks.
What the heck?
Okay. I think what you're doing is, let me show you what you're doing. See in the very corner how the mouse is a plus and then it turns into another little kind of plus?
Yeah.
When you do that, it drags whatever's in that cell over there like that. What you got to do,
Okay.
hold your mouse in the dead center of that cell and try it again.
Okay. Okay, so there we go. Okay, that makes sense.
No.
No, I lost it. Okay, so now it won't let me, like.
Okay, let everything go and
Yeah,
hit.
let everything
Now listen. Hit Control and then the letter C on your keyboard.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I just come down here and Control V.
Okay.
Okay, then I have to manually enter the quantity. Which is negative 706.
You could do that. That's fine.
Okay,
So you're not done at all with entering information.
So the exit price.
Okay, back up here. before you continue on, very, very, very important. Remember this, what I'm going to tell you right now. When you enter in information down here, right here, in the yellow, this is negative 706. To close out this trade, which we want to do, we want to completely close this trade. This has to be 0. Because if you don't, it's like this trade is still live. Okay?
Okay.
Very, very important. This is very critical, or your numbers are going to completely be wrong when it calculates out. Because see, what this area down here, it's doing a lot of calculating. It's looking at numbers here, this section, section 2, and it's looking at numbers over here. It's looking at numbers over here. It's looking everywhere for your trades, because the way the calculator is meant to work is it looks at it down here. It's calculating live trades, okay, and it's calculating live and closed trades, because you can be in a situation where you've made a trade here, and for whatever reason, part of the strategy has you selling partial trades. If you, and I shouldn't say sell, I'll be careful with my terminology. When say you're in a trade here and you've got 1,000 shares for whatever reason, and you go, you know what, I want to reduce my position, and you buy 500 shares, so you're going to close out 500 shares of your trade. Well, you'll still have 500 shares here because you started with 1,000, right? You shorted 1,000, you bought 500, so that means you're still live 500 here, and the trade that you closed out 500 would be here. So in that example, you would have a live trade and a closed trade. So what I want to drive home here is that when you completely close out a trade here, you have to enter in 0. And if the commission is now $1.95 to exit the trade. Remember, this technically, it was your commission when you entered the trade, but you have to enter the commission when you exit the trade. So it may be $1.95. The reason what I want to drive home is, don't go, well, it was $2 to enter and $2 to exit. I want you to cleanly keep track of the commission by entering in every single commission. Okay.
So where'd you get $1.95 from?
I pretended that it
okay.
it cost us $1.95 to exit the trade.
Right.
So our total commission is $3.95. That's what we paid to. Okay, so I want to.
The exit price as well.
You have to manually enter in the exit price. But I want to.
Same as our target price, correct?
Our exit price should, if it hit our target, yes, that's our target price exactly. But listen, give me 5 seconds. I want to steer you away from. I notice you entered in $4, and I'm making a big assumption that you entered $4 because you assumed your entry commission was $2, your exit commission was $2. So you came up with 4. Is that why you put 4 in there?
Did I put 4 in here?
Yeah, you put 4 in there, and that's when I stopped, because I'm like, why is he putting in $4 there?
I don't remember putting 4 in there.
Yeah, you put 4 in there. So I'm gonna only pause and drill certain things in when I think it's critical. I just want your numbers to be accurate. That's all. They have to be accurate. You got to know where you really lie, you know? Okay, so you can continue from this point. Yeah.
And I'll just put in my target, which was 4.19. Enter. And then it gave us our calculation because it's counting our commissions, correct? And then so we have to make this 0.
Excellent. Yes.
And then that's it, right?
Yes. On the upper part, yes.
So what now?
Yes, that's you're done on the upper part. The upper part, the biggest thing when you close a trade, you want to make sure that your commissions, you've transitioned them from here down to here, and you've zeroed out your up here everything because the trade is completely closed. This should be 0. Your totals should be 0 because you moved this information. If these were your entry and then this was your dollar cost average, if you did it again, move all that information, if you had it, down to here. And the most important part, like I said, is make sure these are zeroed out and you correctly entered in. And if you've done it correctly, the only thing really you should enter is the exit commissions, because this is copy and pasted automatically. That's, you copy and pasted it, so it's accounted for. And then you have to manually enter in the exit commission, which I pretended was $1.95. Okay. Now, because there's a lot of information on this screen, I'll let you pick up from this point. So I answered your question. You're done at the upper part. Now we're in the middle part. So you can continue on with the middle part.
The connection is lost again. This is getting ridiculous. I don't know what to do. Section 2.
Yeah, section 2. All right.
This is closed section.
Yep. The middle is the closed section. Tell me if you think it's completely all information's entered.
Exit date.
Correct.
So I have to go back to the graph and see when we exited the trade. So we exited the trade on 120. So the 1/20. And then now we're done.
You are correct. Good job. Good job. And you're really done because it sounded weird when I said that. Done. Realistically, you only have to enter in information in section 1 and section 2. Section 3 are the closed trade section, and really it's I got to reword that. I'm thinking boxes 1 through 4 are the final calculations. In reality, it's not. This is the closed trade section up here. This is the closed trade section.
Right.
This is not the closed trade section. These are statistics. That's more accurate. Much more accurate of a statement. Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't write over my template again. Alright, so with that said, what we ended up doing is making $38.41. we traded $3,000. We had a net P&L of 1.28% and a gross trade P&L of 1.41. Okay, so very good, very good, very good. There's only a couple glitches, you know, and that was correctly copying and pasting over here. Don't, of course, when you do that, don't grab the corner.
Right.
And then correctly entering the commission. And the whole idea was if you copy and paste, you can't make a mistake because you're just literally copying that data down here. And then you have to manually enter in the exit commission. And remember, you got to make sure that this is a whole number. If you keep the calculation here, it's going to give you a value error down here, so you have to put in the right commission. And when you transition down, make sure these are at 0. So you have to manually come and enter in 0, and those shares are copied down here. And then you have to enter in, and you have to come and manually enter 0 here too, because that commission is accounted for down in this section. That's the critical part. It's a couple manual things you got to do for your calculations to come out correctly, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're going to move on. That, you know, this is a very, very important video. Well, they're all important, but this one specifically, I've never gone into so much detail on the calculator, okay? So you're going to want to review this thing, like I said, until you could do it in your sleep, you know, especially what we started out with this morning when you showed the initial graph and you're asking, you know, if you would get in it or not, and you said probably. Anyway, you know, I think you know the importance. I drove that home. So I'm going to do this real quickly here. This is going to conclude this part of the video for this section for the meat and potatoes for today.